My name is Elizabeth Glusko, Global Markets Reporter for CNBC, and I am in the CNBC studio right now with fellow reporters Marissa and Logan to give a global perspective for today's Trade Talk on the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. We will specifically be talking about the Reserve Bank of New Zealand's history, uniqueness, monetary policies, and how they have changed since 2008 in particular, as well as their similarities and differences to that of the Fed. Let's take a look by discussing the history of the RBNZ, also known as the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. So the RBNZ was officially founded August 1st, 1934, so it hasn't even been around for a full century yet. However, as we will discuss further in the report, it's still around today, survived by 250 members. But before any of this happened, notes were issued by main trading banks. Then the bank was officially modeled after the Bank of England. Several Reserve Bank acts only increased the bank's power when it first was established. These included inflation targeting, administering foreign exchange, and several more. Also, the oil shocks of the 70s and 80s, as well as the changes in development, made it hard for the bank to succeed. But as mentioned, they are still in success today. They have several different functions of the members, such as becoming the government stock registrar, the government's banker, operating foreign reserve controls, conducting prudential management of the banks, and conducting monetary policy to meet a variety of targets. So I will now turn the report over to global reporter Marissa, and she will discuss to you about the uniqueness of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand.
Thank you, Liz. Now going off the history of the New Zealand Bank, we have to look at the structure. At the top is the Governing Committee. It is a 7-member crew led by the governor. The decision-making power on monetary policy ultimately rests with the central bank governor. The central bank governor is Adrian Orr, who took office on March 27, 2018, and he's New Zealand's 12th governor. There are 3 subcommittees below the Governing Committee. They are the Financial Stability Committee, Assets and Liability Committee, and Monetary Policy Committee. Each of the subcommittees are run by one of the members of the Governing Committee. The committees take advice from the Board of Directors, who meet to review the performance of the governing committees and come up with an assessment of their performance. The members are appointed by the Minister of Finance and by recommendation from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand's Board of Directors. Now, it's really important to look at the uniqueness of the Central Bank of New Zealand. As one of the world's strongest central banks, New Zealand's has many unique characteristics that are not seen in other banks across the world. For example, the RBNZ has about $30 billion worth of transactions that are settled through the bank's payment and settlement systems every day, making it one of the world's largest banks. One thing that is unique is the New Zealand dollar, which is also known as the Kiwi dollar, and it is one of the most highly traded currencies in the world. The RBNZ has no private owners, meaning it has been wholly owned by the government of New Zealand since 1936. One interesting fact is that additional revenue that the bank makes goes into Crown accounts, which pays a dividend to the New Zealand government. The bank also has a unique function in that it supervises and oversees New Zealand's insurance industry. Even though you see other countries have insurance that is mandated by the government, it is not usually the job of the Reserve Bank. Now I'm going to hand it off to Logan, who's going to discuss the 2008 monetary policies and policy evolution of the Central Bank of New Zealand. However, it seems like Logan has taken the looking to land down under to a whole new level today. Logan, over to you.
Thanks, Marissa. The first thing I'm going to do is be talking about the 2008 monetary policy and how it changed over the years. The first policy change was the OCR, or the official cash rate. This is the same as our federal funds rate, which is the overnight lending rate between banks. So, the Reserve Bank committees meet every 6 weeks to discuss the official cash rate. They're required to maintain price stability of 1 to 3%, and they tend to look to past short-term issues like supply shocks. They rely heavily on inflation, more specifically expectations of inflation and inflation of other nations, ones that they trade with. While the recovery was fragile, it is said that New Zealand was one of the quickest to recover, and the impact is among the shallowest across the globe. I would attribute this to a healthy balance sheet compared to other countries that were affected more. As for policy evolution, policies went back to normal. They continued to use conventional monetary policies, and the only thing that really changed was that the OCR remained very low for a very long time after 2008. So the next thing I'm going to do is compare and contrast the Reserve Bank of New Zealand to the Fed. The RBNZ and the Fed both have 7 members that were appointed to run the banks. The RBNZ members are appointed by the Board of Directors, while the Fed members were appointed by the President of the United States. The Fed includes 12 regional districts, but the RBNZ doesn't have any districts, probably due to the size of the nation. Both the Fed and the RBNZ regulate the banks, and all foreign exchange transactions go through the Fed and the Reserve National Bank. One more similarity is their independence. For example, they're both independent from fiscal policy, and they both have their own ways of guiding the economy. However, they both must answer to their respective governments. Congress or Parliament can ultimately override the central banks. That's all the coverage I have. Back to you.
As you can see from Logan's report, sometimes taking a closer look at the Reserve Bank of New Zealand means take a step further away and look at the bigger picture. And right now, the bigger picture facing the Reserve Bank of New Zealand is the coronavirus. And here at CNBC, we are about to report breaking news that New Zealand's central bank slashed interest rates by 75 basis points to a record low this past Monday, following an emergency meeting, sinking the country's currency as it prepared for a significant hit to the economy due to the coronavirus. Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Glusko, Global Markets Reporter for CNBC, and we will report to you tomorrow with updates about the coronavirus impact. Thank you.